Push. And now relax. Following the midwife's calm instructions, and thanks to the epidural, I was able to stay relatively composed and focus on the birth. The air in the delivery room was charged with a unique tension, but also with an even greater sense of anticipation. Sean held my hand tightly, grounding me with his strength. Outside the window, it was night. At the end of this long day, we would finally meet our new family member. Though the epidural had dulled the feeling in my lower body, there was still an overwhelming pressure. I was face to face with the sacred moment of life itself. "You're doing great, Kristen." Just like that. Sean's voice came softly beside my ear. It felt as if the world had shrunk down to just the three of us. Me, our baby, and Sean. Then the stillness was cut through by a sterile mechanical sound. From the corner of the table, my smartphone chimed once. Ping. At first, no one paid attention. We thought it was probably a message from a friend cheering me on. But the sound didn't stop. Ping, ping, ping. It kept ringing insistently, like an alarm warning of something urgent. "Sean, I'm sorry. Could you grab that for me?" Something deep inside me felt uneasy. He hesitated and said, "Let's just focus right now." But when he noticed the look on my face, he handed me the phone. The screen was filled with a string of notifications from a familiar app. Security system. Motion detected at the front door. Security system. Motion detected in the living room. Security system. Motion detected in the upstairs hallway. My heart began to pound painfully in my chest. That house, the one Sean and I had bought as an investment for our future, was supposed to be empty. No one was living there. The electricity had been shut off completely. So why? I swiped the screen and opened the live security camera feed. After a few seconds of loading, the video appeared. And I gasped. It was unmistakably our house. And there, standing in the middle of the living room, smiling broadly as she directed the movers, was my only sister, Mandy. Beside her, her in-laws were wandering around, inspecting the wallpaper and flooring as if they were viewing a home they were about to buy. At their feet were piles of unfamiliar furniture and countless boxes already moved inside. The calm atmosphere of the delivery room froze solid in an instant. "Kristen, what's wrong? You've gone pale. Is there anything wrong?" Sean's worried voice sounded distant. My eyes were fixed on the small screen, right there before me. My property, my future, was being trampled on as if it meant nothing. Without a word, I turned the trembling phone toward Sean. His brows were knitted together, and a moment later, his expression mirrored mine. An utter disbelief. "What the hell? That's Mandy. What is she doing there?" How had she even gotten inside? There were no signs of a broken window. No door was forced open, which meant there was only one possible explanation: a spare key. I felt dizzy at my own foolishness. I had given that key to my mother. It had been about 3 months earlier. The house had just finished some minor renovations. Sean and I both had unavoidable work that day, and we couldn't be there for the contractor's final inspection. "Mom, I have a favor. Just in case the contractors need to get in for something urgent, could you hold on to the spare key for me?" I remembered looking her straight in the eyes, emphasizing my words. "Mom, please, whatever you do, don't give this key to Mandy. You know how careless she is, and I never know what she's thinking. I really need you to keep it safe only for emergencies." My mother gave a small laugh as if to say I was overreacting when she saw the seriousness in my eyes. "I understand, Kristen. You worry too much. I won't give it to her. Just go to work. Everything will be fine." I believed her words, but my mother must have given that key to Mandy. There was no doubt about it. This wasn't just Mandy acting alone. It was a conspiracy between my mother and my sister. That house wasn't just some empty property. It was the first investment Sean and I had managed to buy. After years of saving, living frugally, and working side by side. After giving birth, once life settled down, we planned to rent it out for a steady source of income. Every cent of that profit was meant for our baby's education fund. It was our future. Carefully built, brick by brick. No one, not even family, had the right to trespass into that sacred space. Mandy had always been like this. She would use my things as if they were hers without asking. Back in high school, she took the designer dress I'd bought with my part-time pay and wore it to a party, then returned it with a red wine stain. When I got angry, our parents scolded me instead. "She's your little sister. Forgive her. You can always buy another one. My tears, my frustration, the things I treasured, they were all silenced by the same excuse. You're the older sister. But this time was different. That wasn't a dress in a shared closet. It was property, legally registered in my and Sean's names. It was the embodiment of our future and our unborn child's. Watching Mandy on the phone screen, showing her in-laws around and saying, "The sunlight in this bedroom is just lovely," caused something inside me to snap. An anger unlike anything I had ever felt before welled up from deep within me. Then the midwife's voice came again. "Kristen." As I bore down with all my strength, I managed to speak clearly between breaths. "Sean, call the police." For a moment, Sean looked at me, confused, as if he couldn't comprehend what I had just said. A wife in labor, asking her husband to call the police. It must have sounded insane. But when he met my eyes, he understood everything instantly. He saw that I wasn't joking. He gave a firm nod, grabbed his phone, and stepped toward the corner of the room. "Kristen, your contractions are getting closer. Stay focused," the midwife urged. My mind was split in two, half with the child about to be born, half with the home that was being stolen from us miles away. I could hear Sean's voice on the phone, calm but tense. "Yes, it's our property. That's right. Unlawful entry. I know this sounds strange, but the intruder is my sister-in-law." Hearing that somehow gave me strength. A surge of anger and betrayal that turned into the last push I needed. "Kristen, I can see the head. Just one more," the midwife shouted. After that, everything blurred together. The pain, the adrenaline, the fury. And then, just minutes later, after what felt like every ounce of pain and every miracle in the world condensed into one moment, our son, Alex, let out his first cry. "Congratulations, he's a healthy baby boy." Sean's face was a mix of tears and laughter. Then, the tiny, warm weight of life was gently placed on my chest. Exhausted, I held him close and let my tears fall in silence. I had endured everything, just to meet this child. That moment was sacred, peaceful, and yet in one corner of my heart, a dark stain still lingered. While Sean held Alex for his first cleaning, I picked up my phone again. The camera feed was still alive. Mandy was handing cash to the movers, apparently paying them after they finished carrying in the last heavy dresser. How meticulous of her. She had planned everything perfectly, timing it for when I'd be in the hospital giving birth. Then, suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Mandy turned, frowning, and opened it. Standing there were two police officers. She froze instantly. Her in-laws looked bewildered, glancing at each other, clearly having no idea what was happening. Through the feed's microphone, I could just barely make out one officer speaking to her in a calm, firm tone. I couldn't catch the exact words, but Mandy's frantic gestures made it obvious she was arguing, trying to explain herself. When I turned up the volume slightly, I could hear it. Mandy's shrill, desperate voice echoing through the speakers. "I told you, my sister is in the hospital right now. This house is empty. No one's using it. I'm just making good use of it, that's all. We're family. How could she call the police over something like this? She's lost her mind." The moment I heard those words, something inside me finally snapped. I was beyond anger, so far past it that I almost laughed. But then, one of the officers interrupted Mandy's rant, his voice calm yet firm, echoing even through the speakers in the delivery room. And that single sentence felt like a beam of light cutting through the dark. "Where your sister is right now doesn't matter. This property belongs to her, which means none of you have any right to be here. This isn't a family matter. It's a clear case of criminal trespass." The officer's words were absolute, a verdict delivered without hesitation. Even through the grainy camera feed, I could see the color drain from Mandy's face. Her father-in-law shouted, "There must be some mistake." But the second officer stepped forward, calm and immovable, and said, "If you refuse to cooperate, we'll add obstruction of justice to your charges. Place your hands behind your back." Mandy kept screaming till the end. "We're family. This is a violation of my rights." Her mother-in-law began babbling excuses. "We didn't know anything. We just did what Mandy told us." Her father-in-law, defeated or simply stunned, said nothing as the officers led him away. I watched, silent, unblinking, as they were handcuffed, one by one, and disappeared from the frame. Relief wasn't the only thing I felt. What weighed heavier was the horror of it all. Seeing my own sister taken away in handcuffs because of a call I had made. A storm of emotions, grief, fury, betrayal, twisted inside me. And as I held my newborn son close, I bore silent witness to the downfall of those who had violated my sanctuary. A while later, Sean's phone began to ring sharply in his jacket pocket. The caller ID read, Kristen's mother. Sean and I exchanged a look. He answered silently. Even without putting it on speaker, my mother's shrill voice pierced through the room, filling every corner of the delivery suite. How could you do this? Because of you, Mandy. Mandy's been arrested. What kind of monster has her sister arrested by the police? Kristen just gave birth. This isn't the time. Sean tried to stay calm, but she didn't listen. Never mind that. Mandy's life is ruined. How are you going to explain this? That was the moment my last thread of restraint snapped. Sean, give me the phone. I could barely find my voice through the post-labor haze. But he hesitated, but the look in my eyes left him no choice. He handed me the phone. On the other end, my mother was still sobbing and screaming. I took a long, deep breath. And when I spoke, my voice was so calm it even startled me. Mom, I'm the one who called the police on Mandy. There was a sudden, sharp silence. Kristen, you? Yes, me. I told Sean to make the call from my hospital bed. Mandy committed a crime. She broke into my house and tried to claim it as her own. She deserved to be arrested. Then I asked, quietly but firmly, tell me something, Mom. How did Mandy get into that house? What are you talking about? What do you mean by... Answer me. The only spare key to that house was the one I gave you 3 months ago. For the contractors. And I told you clearly, never give it to Mandy, remember? My mother fell silent. That brief pause was all the answer I needed. Then, suddenly, her voice rose again. High, defensive, hysterical. Yes, I gave it to her. I had no choice. She came to me crying, saying, I don't care about myself, but my husband's parents. They're elderly, and they're losing their home. I can't just let that happen. She was being selfless. You don't understand her heart. Ah, so that was it. Mandy hadn't done it out of pure selfishness. She had hidden behind a reason no one could easily argue with. For her elderly in-laws. And my mother had clung to that flimsy sense of righteousness without a moment's hesitation. So you gave her the key? After I begged you not to? Of course I did. How could I turn away 2 old people with nowhere to go? Mandy said she didn't want to worry you while you were giving birth. That it would only be for a few weeks until you got out of the hospital. She said she'd tell you everything and apologize later. She's such a good girl. And you? It was nothing but a carefully constructed excuse to seize what was ours. My mother had believed Mandy's lies, and in doing so, she had become her accomplice. I see. That's enough. Whatever family we had, it ends today. I ended the call without waiting for a reply and handed the phone back to Sean, who was staring at me in stunned silence. It was a conspiracy, Sean. My mother gave Mandy the key. All the trust I had in her, it's gone. Completely. At that moment, the tears I had been holding back finally slid down my cheek. They were tears for the world I had believed in, the one that had just crumbled to pieces. A few hours later, while Sean was taking a short nap, I couldn't sleep. The adrenaline still hadn't worn off. So I picked up my phone and started making calls. The first person I contacted was John, my close friend from college who has become a top-notch lawyer. Kristen, what's going on? Wait, Sean told me the good news. Congratulations. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. But I'm afraid I can't just sit back and celebrate right now. I need your help. Immediately. I gave him a concise rundown of everything that had happened. He fell silent for a moment, stunned. But then his voice switched to that of a professional, steady and sharp. Got it. We'll file a civil lawsuit for damages, and I'll request a restraining order against your sister and her in-laws. I'll include your home, the investment property, and the hospital in the order. His words were like a lifeline. Yes, this wasn't just a messy family feud. It was a matter to be handled by law. Feeding newborn Alex in my arms, I began preparing for a quiet but decisive legal counterattack against those who had tried to destroy my family. After hanging up with John, I barely had time to breathe before the next wave hit. My phone was already filled with dozens of unread messages from aunts, cousins, family friends. Almost all of them were accusations, fueled by the distorted story my mother had clearly spread. "I can't believe you'd turn your own sister into the police. That's heartless." "Mandy's in-laws are elderly, aren't they? They had nowhere else to go. Couldn't you have shown just a little compassion?" "So, now that you're rich and successful, you think you can abandon your family? You've really changed, Kristen." My hands trembled with anger as I forced myself not to reply. None of them knew. How hard I had worked, how much I had sacrificed, how long I had endured Mandy's irresponsibility and entitlement. They didn't want to know. They preferred the easy story. Poor kind Mandy and cold, heartless Kristen. The final blow came in the form of a direct message from Mandy's husband, my brother-in-law. "Kristen, I'll never forgive you for what you did. I just wanted to give my parents a comfortable life in their old age. You ruined my chance to be a good son." A dry laugh escaped me before I could stop it. How does taking over someone else's property count as being a good son? I didn't even bother replying. I simply closed the screen, blocked every number, and silenced every contact. It was the only form of self-defense I had left. In my arms, Alex slept peacefully, his tiny breaths steady and warm. My body was exhausted, still recovering from childbirth. With my hormones in chaos and my emotions already fragile, why did I have to waste my energy on something so ugly? Anger and sorrow welled up inside me, and I felt tears threaten to spill. But I bit down hard on my lip and held them back. There was no time to cry. A few weeks passed after Alex and I came home from the hospital. Thanks to Sean taking paternity leave, I was slowly learning to navigate life as a new mother. Watching Alex's sleeping face was the only thing that soothed the pain and helped me forget the chaos. Right after we were discharged, Sean and I changed every lock, both at home and at the investment property. John was in the process of filing the restraining order, but he warned it could take several weeks to be officially approved. Those weeks felt endless, an eternity of waiting without protection. To ease our anxiety, we upgraded our home security system even further. Finally, I thought, we could sleep in peace. But I was wrong. The real nightmare wasn't about physical distance. It came creeping into my life in a far more insidious way. One afternoon, after feeding Alex and putting him down for a nap, I got a message from an old college friend. "Kristen, have you seen this? Are you okay?" Attached was a screenshot. It was a post from Mandy's social media account. The photo showed Mandy with tears in her eyes, her face drawn and exhausted, looking down as her husband held her shoulders protectively. In the corner of the frame, his elderly parents sat in chairs, frail and pitiful. And then, when I read the caption beneath it, I was struck completely speechless. "We're going through a very difficult time. My elderly parents have been forced out of the home they lived in for decades, and now we have nowhere to go. I reached out to the only family I thought I could rely on, my sister, but success seems to have changed her. I only asked to borrow one room, just until we could get back on our feet, but instead she called the police and had us thrown out like criminals. We're now huddled together in my tiny childhood home, trying to find strength. I still believe that money isn't everything. What we truly needed was family compassion." Every word was a lie, carefully constructed, malicious, and designed to manipulate. The post already had hundreds of likes and a flood of sympathetic comments, all praising Mandy and condemning me. "What a cruel sister." "Stay strong, Mandy. Money really does change people. How sad." If I stayed silent, that narrative would harden into truth. I wouldn't just lose the respect of relatives, I'd be branded among my friends, my colleagues, as the woman who abandoned her family for wealth. That wasn't just reputation. It was my dignity, as a mother and as a human being. But unlike them, I had a weapon, something they could never fabricate. Proof. I opened my own social media account and began typing a new post. I've received many messages about my sister's post, so let me share what really happened that day. At that time, I was in the delivery room, risking my life to bring my son into the world. While I was there, my sister entered a property I had purchased for our future. without my permission, and moved her in-laws into it. This wasn't family helping family. It was a calculated act of betrayal committed during the most sacred moment of my life. Then I attached a video, footage edited from my home security system. The video began with Mandy unlocking the door with a duplicate key. Then came the scene of her smiling broadly, directing the movers, while her in-laws wandered through the house as if it already belonged to them. It showed the police arriving, the confusion, the shouting, and finally, the damning moment, Mandy's voice, shrill and frantic, crying out, "My sister's in the hospital. The house is empty. I'm just making use of it." That was all it took. Within minutes of posting, messages began pouring in. "Now it makes sense. Kristen, you did nothing wrong. This is unbelievable." And soon the tide turned, straight into Mandy's own comment section. People who had sympathized with her began to reverse course, one after another. "Everything you said was a lie." I saw the video. This was trespassing, plain and simple. "Stop playing the victim." Within half an hour, Mandy deleted her post in a panic. But the internet doesn't forget. Someone had already saved it, and then both her lie and my proof were circulating side by side across the web. I watched the chaos unfold for a moment, then quietly closed my phone. What I felt wasn't satisfaction. Not exactly. It was more like a bitter aftertaste, the shame of having to expose my family's disgrace to the world just to defend myself. Still, I didn't regret it. Truth can be ugly. It can hurt people, but it's better than living beneath a lie. This was self-defense, the only way left to protect my child, my home, and my name. In the weeks that followed, fragments of news about Mandy and her family reached me. They were forced, of course, to rent an apartment for themselves. Her husband reportedly lost all credibility at work, alienated by colleagues, and eventually quit under pressure. With their income unstable, their finances crumbled. Rent, living expenses, medical costs, everything piled up. And with their reputations in ruins, no relatives or friends were willing to help. As for my parents, they continued to defend Mandy until the very end. But after that video, no one listened anymore. Their stubbornness and blind favoritism had isolated them completely. When I heard those rumors, I didn't feel much of anything. All I could do then was to look ahead and start building a new life with my family. One night, I received a message from an unknown number. "To Kristen. It's me, Mandy." The text was long, but it reeked of self-pity. "First of all, I'm truly sorry for what I did. But please try to understand. We were desperate. My in-laws had nowhere to go. We were at the end of our rope. Please believe me." I read the message to the end, then quietly powered off my phone. A deep, weary sigh escaped me. She hadn't changed. She still didn't understand what she had done, or how deeply she had wounded me. Even now, she still sees herself as the victim. And at that moment, I knew with absolute certainty, she no longer has any place in my life. A few days later, John called me. The permanent restraining order has been officially granted. That phone call felt like a blessing, a quiet confirmation that I have done the right thing. The past can't be changed, but the future is still mine to build. From now on, with Sean and Alex, I will create a home, warmer and happier than any we'd ever known.